It's Quinn Cantera, Pix 106.
All right, Kim Goldman's on the phone. You know her brother, Ron Goldman. I'm going to say, and we're wondering how you say it, Kim, this is a fact, right? Your brother was murdered by O.J. Simpson, right? That's a fact.
It is a fact. The civil jury found him unanimously responsible for Ron and Nicole's death, but he was acquitted. That doesn't mean he wasn't guilty.
Kim's on the phone to talk about the new book. Is the new book, My 20-Year Battle with O.J. Simpson, Can't Forgive. And I'm just going to grab this from, I think it's February of last year. You wrote a blog on the Huffington Post. It says, "Dear person that started using the word closure as it relates to grief and loss, I'd like to flick you on the nose. While those of us that are mourning the loss of a loved one appreciate that you're probably trying to be comforting and encouraging for us to find closure is the last thing that we want to hear." You must have been, you're holding this. How do you let it go? Can you not let it go, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the concept of closure. I understand the concept of forgiveness, and I know people just want to see us be okay. But for me, it doesn't exist. Closure doesn't work here because my brother's always gone. I'm raising a 10-year-old, so the stories are happening, the questions are happening. The country is still completely attached and emotional about this case. So even on my best day, if I didn't want to think about it or if I wanted to just, block it out, I'm not entirely allowed to because it's not just about us. It's bigger than us. And so rather than try to figure that part out, I manage it. I manage my grief, I manage my pain, I manage my anger, and that's a healthier coping mechanism for me, and that's a conversation that I would much prefer to have.
In your book, Can't Forgive, My 20-Year Battle with O.J. Simpson, is the story of how you contemplated running O.J. over, is that in the book?
Yes. I opened with that. It was, it's a pivotal time for me because it was right, when the criminal cases and the civil case were ending or beginning, and he was, in Los Angeles. We were both driving in a strip mall, and he appeared before my car, and I stopped, and I knew it was him. I studied him. I knew every inch of him, and I revved the engine and white-knuckled my steering wheel thinking I could run him over, and I obviously I didn't. I thought of my dad. And
Kim, how close did you get?
It was, everything was flashing before my eyes, and all that emotion and pent-up rage that I had, buried for for a couple of years just bubbled right to the top. I was very vulnerable. It was very raw. But ultimately, I don't have a violent streak in me, and I would never do that to myself or my family.
Kim, when O.J. finally got, behind bars, and when he finally was locked up for the stuff in Vegas, did that give you any sort of solace? I mean, I know it wasn't for what you want him in there for, but he's locked up.
Yes, I didn't realize how much it would mean until I realized that he wasn't out walking the streets anymore. I mean, I wrote in the book that there was just right after he was sentenced and in prison, there was someone sitting out in front of a store out here that was signing memorabilia, and it looked like him, and I panicked. I stopped and I was staring, and I thought, oh wait, it can't be him. Right. And I could breathe a little bit deeper, and that was new for me, to not have him be able to raise havoc. And I didn't realize how much solace I was going to get from that. But I also think that, my dad and I pursuing him for so long helped kind of push him right to the edge. And publishing If I Did It, I think pushed him right over. So I feel some joy in that.
Ron Goldman's sister, Kim Goldman, on the phone. Her book is My 20-Year Battle with O.J. Simpson, Can't Forgive. June 12th is the 20-year anniversary. I'm sure you don't want to relive that day, but I'm curious, where were you and how did the news get to you?
I was living in San Francisco. I was attending San Francisco State and working, and I was on my way home from work, and my dad had already known. My dad was called by the coroner's office around 5. I got home about 6:30. My dad got me on the phone and asked me if I'd been watching the news all day, and I had no idea what he was talking about. And then he just blurted it out that my brother was killed. My brother was dead.
And you're alone at the time, probably.
No, actually, I was living. I had a boyfriend. I was living with him, and he was home waiting for me. My dad had reached him first and told him to sit and wait. So he was sitting in that angst for about an hour and a half before I got there, and it was horrible. I mean, I can never forget hearing that broken spirit in my dad's voice.
And the world for all of us, it changed. We were gripped by this trial. We watched you day in and day out, and then finally it comes down. Everybody's standing up, and he's either reading the verdict, and he's not guilty.
It was surreal. I couldn't believe it. They read Nicole's verdict first, and I shushed everybody, thinking, waiting to hear my brother's, because I guess in some twisted way I thought his verdict would be different. And I felt incredibly betrayed and disappointed and mad, and I just was so shocked and hurt. And then ultimately I just felt like I let my brother down. I mean, it was this weird, overwhelming feeling like we didn't do enough. And there was a lot going on in the courtroom, so we just got up and walked out. But that's, you walk into the courtroom and you believe in truth and honor and integrity, and it just doesn't always show up inside the courtroom.
We as a society, as this voyeuristic society, we really embarrassed ourselves before, during, and after that trial, didn't we?
Well, the jurors sure did, and there are definitely
the media,
people.
And the media and the people staying at home to watch this trial 8 hours a day. I mean, you probably didn't see it, but looking back on it, we were embarrassing.
Well, it was hard because I do believe that the media played a part. I don't know what part it played, but obviously, when the cameras became, such a central focal point in that case, lots of pandering happened. That was when tabloid journalism, was at its finest. People were selling their stories, and everything was on the news. Everything was discussed. It was hard for us, but that was like the first of the first. I mean, we didn't have anything like that before.
We were all gripped. We were watching it. I watched it. Everybody watched it. Do you remember the outcry of excitement for people supporting O.J. Simpson, and how passionate people were and excited they were that he was let off the hook here?
Yeah, that definitely. I couldn't believe it. I was really saddened by that, because I guess in some way I felt like they were happy my brother died. I mean, that was how I kind of interpreted that. I know that's not the case, but yeah, I mean, there are people that think that, our legal system and our police officers are all corrupt, and that was a way to say, ha-ha. I just don't believe that, and so I didn't understand those reactions.
All right, Kim, and then what are you hearing about O.J. in jail? Because we're hearing he's not well. We're hearing there's a hunger strike. We're hearing he has a boyfriend. What are you hearing about his jail time?
I hear all those things too. I hear that he's also throwing parties and having a ball, and that he's the kingpin in there. I don't know. We hear the same stories. I did hear that he was in the infirmary and got beaten up, and apparently there's some truth to that. But and I know that he's on the janitorial service. He's cleaning toilets. That's what we were told. But I have to not think about that until the time comes when he's released. But right now he's locked up, and hopefully he stays there for the rest of his time.
June 12th is the 20th anniversary of the death of Kim's brother Ron Goldman and Nicole Simpson. The book is out. My 20-year battle with O.J. Simpson can't forgive. Thanks for the time, Kim.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's Quinny Cantera, Pix 106.